Welcome back, fight fans. Welcome back. Let's just dig right into it. Why is Canelo Alvarez and Jermall Charlo fight not happening right away? And why is Jermall Charlo not on the list of Canelo Alvarez's 4 potential opponents? We've heard the list. You have a Demetrius Andre, you have a Callum Smith, you have a Gennady Golovkin, and you even have a Sergey Kovalev. But the name that's missing is a Jermall Charlo. And why is Jermall Charlo not listed? A lot of people say, Jermall Charlo is the number 1 contender. Jermall Charlo is being ducked by Canelo Alvarez. Why is Canelo Alvarez not fighting Jermall Charlo? So let me explain and break it down to why, Canelo Alvarez is not fighting Jermall Charlo. One of the first reasons is Jermall Charlo is not an actual mandatory for Canelo Alvarez. Just because he's a number 1 contender and probably the most top-ranked guy, he was supposed to be fighting an eliminator with Gennady Golovkin to be the number 1 mandatory for Canelo Alvarez. It's not Canelo Alvarez's fault that he's not fighting Golovkin. It's not Canelo Alvarez's fault that the WBC set that order. You have to understand that the WBC is a corrupt organization, but it's not Canelo Alvarez's fault that they are a corrupt organization. Canelo Alvarez fights for the belt. He does not dictate or make terms for the WBC. So that is the one reason why Canelo Alvarez is not fighting Jermall Charlo right away. And that's one reason why Jermall Charlo is not on the list. But let's be honest and unbiased. The real reason why Canelo Alvarez is not fighting Jermall Charlo, because as we know Canelo Alvarez will fight anybody. Canelo Alvarez fought the hardest puncher and the best 2 fighters at 160 pounds, which were Triple G and, Danny Jacobs. These are the best 2 fighters at 160 aside from Canelo himself. So it's clearly no fear on his part as far as, is why he's not fighting Jermall Charlo. The real reason why he's not fighting Jermall Charlo, aside from the corrupt WBC, is that Jermall Charlo is a tune-up fighter. And as you see that everyone on the list, Canelo Alvarez is not interested in fighting tune-up fights. Canelo Alvarez is wanting to challenge himself against, Sergey Kovalev. He's wanting to challenge himself against, another world champion and Demetrius Andre as far as becoming a unified, undisputed champion at 160. He's wanting to challenge himself by going up a weight class and fighting a Callum Smith for his belt. He's wanting to challenge himself by facing the hardest puncher in the division in a trilogy in Gennady Golovkin. So you see Canelo Alvarez is only wanting the biggest and best fights. And as far as Errol Spence Jr., that would be one of the biggest selling fights. Jermall Charlo has no brand, has no name, has no recognition. Jermall Charlo just headlined his first card in his last fight, and he did a lackluster performance against Matt Korobov. A lot of people felt that Matt Korobov beat him in that fight. Let's be honest and unbiased. Jermall Charlo is nothing more than a tune-up for Canelo Alvarez. Jermall tune-up Charlo, who has no leverage, has no fan base, has no belt, who's irrelevant to this entire equation. And as we all know, unifications trump mandatories, and he's not even been mandated to fight Canelo Alvarez as of yet. The WBC, in my opinion, is a very corrupt organization. You can't take them seriously when it comes to mandating fights. The only sanctioning body that I really take very seriously is the IBF, because I know these guys mean what they say and say what they mean. They've even stripped Gennady Golovkin. So that these guys are serious about their mandatories and about ordering them. The WBC is not. Canelo Alvarez never has, never was, and never will duck Jermall Charlo. Jermall Charlo is levels below Canelo Alvarez. Jermall Charlo is an interesting fighter, and it's a fight that I think that could possibly happen this year, but I don't think it'll happen next, because as you notice, the list that they had for Canelo Alvarez is a lot of big money fights, a lot of big, huge fights. And I don't think Canelo Alvarez would take 3 elite level opponents back to back, because no fighter does that. Floyd never did that. No one does that, because those type of fights are what drains you. You need, as a boxer, you need a rest, you need a break. And a tune-up fight like Jermall Charlo would be perfect for Canelo Alvarez to round off the year. So I think Canelo Alvarez takes another big fight in September, and then in possibly December, he takes on a lighter touch like a Jermall Charlo, who's a tune-up, and just to get the mandatory out of the way. Because if you notice, Canelo Alvarez fought Rocky Fielding, who was a world champion at a higher weight class, but he was still somewhat of a tune-up fight for Canelo Alvarez. So you can see Canelo Alvarez taking on a Jermall Charlo in December, because, Canelo's not going to take 3 of the top fighters in the world back to back to back, and that's what he's recently done. He's fought Triple G in his previous fight, then he fought Danny Jacobs, and now he's going to fight another top level fighter. At some point, he's going to need to get another tune-up in, just like he did Rocky Fielding, and that's what Jermall Charlo will be. Another tune-up. The fight will happen. It is being delayed because at some point, the WBC will order the mandatory, and Canelo Alvarez most likely will be already an undisputed champion by the time he sees a Jermall Charlo. Jermall Charlo has no fan base, and he's not even willing to cross over to the zone at this point. He showed no willingness. So let's see if he's ready to cross over. Let's see if he's ready to face, the biggest and the most elite opponent he's ever faced. And I don't even think it's a true matchup between Canelo and Charlo. I think Canelo stops Charlo early, similar to what he did to Rocky Fielding. I think that Charlo may last a little longer than Rocky Fielding. So I think Charlo, I give him about 6 rounds, and then Canelo stops him. I think Canelo's relentless pressure, power, speed, combinations will all be too much for Jermall Charlo, who struggled with the Matt Korobov, who was coming off a long layoff. And then you hear a lot of fanboys saying, oh, Charlo only struggled with Korobov because, the guy was switched at the last minute. Well, he was switched at the last minute on Korobov's end too. Korobov had been on a layoff, and this was a last minute preparation for him as well. So this was supposed to be an easy fight for Charlo. Charlo was supposed to get the stoppage, and he couldn't. At the end of the day, Jermall Charlo has been hyped beyond belief. He's not anywhere in the top 5 of the middleweight division, and I personally think Danny Jacobs, Triple G, and Demetrius Andre all beat Jermall Charlo. So for people to say that, he'll give him a better fight than Danny, none of that. People want to see Canelo versus Charlo because they want to see Charlo stopped, and they want to see the hype train end. But once again, Unbiased, as always, it's the IBFP. Please share, like, and you must absolutely subscribe.